and starting the stream, and we should be live. Hey everyone, let's see, this is OotiniCast episode 368, being recorded on August 15th, 2019. I've changed it in a couple places, but I need to change it on the title there. And let's see, so this is going to be the raw version of the show with any flubs or errors or anything like that, and then the edited, cleaned up version will go out as a podcast tomorrow. As you can see, if you've seen us do ours before, this looks very different, and the reason that it looks different is that we have no longer access to the Hangouts. The Hangouts have been pulled by Google. They are no longer available. There is apparently some way to stream on YouTube, but then if we're going to have more than one face, then everyone has to have their own stream key. We just weren't able to figure all the details out, so we are using a Skype call for this week. Podcast-wise, it should sound the same because we're still using our Audacity, and we're going to use that audio and clean it all up the normal way. So it should make no difference in terms of podcast. But if you're watching this on the stream or on YouTube, then it will look very different this week. Basically, Doc is going to be huge, and I have a little picture that I cannot expand any further, but I've put down next to him so I can go, hi! And be the little Lilliput next to his Brobdingnagian. So, all right. So let me go ahead and tweet out that we're getting going, and then we can actually start the actual podcast. All right. So, okay, that's 368 now. Cool. All right. And Doc, you've got all your stuff ready? You're ready to go?
As ready as I'll ever be, Chill.
Awesome. All right. Let me have a little water, and then we'll get going. Why not? Let's see. Actually, let me move my OBS so I can see more of the show notes. There we go. It's because we're doing the Skype call thing. Everything's a little different. So, all right. Get some water. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that's finally going to learn to play that Valichord. This is episode 368, being recorded on Thursday, August 15th, 2019. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, Dr SWTOR. Hey, Doc.
Hey, Chill, thanks for leaving the asteroid field to receive my transmission.
You're coming in loud and clear.
Excellent.
So it's just the two of us this week, and frankly, with YouTube Hangouts going away, we're having to do this week on a Skype. We may change to like the YouTube streaming, or may figure out a better way to do it, but it's going to look a little weird if you're looking at the visual versions of the show, and if not, if you're just looking at the podcast, it should sound about the same, but yeah, everything's a little different with the Hangouts now gone. We do miss them. It worked perfectly well. We could easily invite new guests and so on. The new version is going to be a lot trickier to sort of figure out, I think, especially at first, as is kind of common. But we'll make it work. And so, Doc, what you been up to?
When I was trying to put my notes together for the show, I was blown away with how smart I was 2 weeks ago, because I actually was putting things in my list as they were happening, which really helped out this morning. But it's been a crazy set of weeks for me in the game, in addition to what I'm trying to do out here. So I've been doing a lot of really cool things in my ops life. So last time we recorded, I believe I had just beaten, or no, I was about to beat Gods from the Machine. So that happened.
Right.
And I don't remember if that happened before last episode or just 2 weeks ago. But if you want to see what it looks like when I'm genuinely freaked out and can't even compute what we just did, then I put the link to the highlight in the show notes, and if you want to go watch that, I think that's the closest we're ever going to get to me being genuinely excited on camera. And so that was huge. I didn't even realize that we won when it first happened, because you don't have time to think about that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
At least the first time you see what happens. And it was just cool to be playing it instead of watching recordings of other people being awesome. And then we started doing progression on Nightmare Dread Fortress in that same team.
Wow. Nice.
And in the two attempts we've had, we got Nightmare Brontis down to 7%, which is agonizing because when that happens, and then I have to wait a whole week to get the crew back together and try again. We're going tonight, and I've been killing my parsing dummy as often as possible. I've been watching videos just to try to tighten up what I'm doing. Just really trying to take my role as a ranged DPS as serious as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And getting ready. So I'm excited for that. And also Death Star Troopers has done some really cool things. That's my Sunday night team. We cleared Dread Palace, which was a first for me. Never beaten that up before. So that was really cool. So now I'm at 8 out of 10 on veteran mode, and Death Star Troopers is at 7 out of 10. So
nice.
We're blowing through content, and I'm getting to see these bosses, what they look like dead in hard mode. It's the same as in story mode, but I think the intrinsic feeling of purpose is higher, maybe for me. And there's a few other things in my list, but the biggest one, the most recent one, yesterday I cleared out rank 300 on my trooper, which gave me Resolute Commander. So
nice.
PhD, the Twi'lek trooper, is now rank 300, and I probably won't be playing on her again until the next grindy complete everything on all classes achievement. Because I created her as my final DVL character, and I had to dust her off as the only trooper that I'm interested in playing on for this achievement too. So I am not going to be doing CZ198 or Ziost or Section X for a very long time. So Chill, who do we have with us today?
Well, let's see. We have some people coming on even right now, so I don't think the list is going to be quite complete, but let's see. Well, I know that Dekion's here, Working Class Nerd 17, which is Marcus, is here, but let me see who's actually showing up on the list, which only updates every so often. Intisar Nar is here, JP Chivalry, Kitty Kisses is here, hey Kitty, Siskaika, that Duck Sauce, and Tileop are all here, so hey everyone. Thanks for coming, and on this unusual day, so we appreciate it. I'm so close, and I believe it's the same achievement that you just got. I have one more base class to get to 300. He's only got like 20 levels to go. So yeah, so I should be done well before the double CXP expires on the 20th. Very excited about that. Not sure exactly what I'm gonna do next, because I mean I wouldn't mind leveling a character, but I'm really hoping the next character to be, you know, a Nautilin, so that would be September. That would be the, you know, Onslaught. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, maybe I should just go back. I mean, in my head, I really want to get like Shadow/Assassin as my mains, which means what I should probably be doing is like going back to those characters and like practicing them and trying new stuff and gearing them up just to practice more than the actual gearing, because at this point in the expansion it's kind of moot, but just get, you know, really used to those characters. I did get onto the previous test server. There's been a test server that's just gone up the last couple days. I have not been able to do that one, but I did do the one that was a few days before that, like, you know, a week-ish ago, messing about with like agent tacticals and stuff like that, and that was a lot of fun. And yesterday, I saw Weird Al Yankovic in concert, which was really fun. Cool. Yeah, it's his Strings Attached tour, and it has him backed by a 41-piece orchestra on all of his songs, and it also has his usual bandmates as well. And so the orchestra also functioned as the opening act, and they played the themes to Indiana Jones, Superman, and Star Wars. So it was really nice to hear Star Wars played by a live orchestra. Then Weird Al did great. It was a lot of fun. And he actually did close the show with The Saga Begins, and had a whole bunch of people from the local 501st come out in mostly Stormtrooper outfits. There was also a Darth Vader, and someone had a very nice R2-D2, remote control R2-D2, very cool. So he did The Saga Begins with them, and then he also did Yoda, which was also fun, of course. So yeah, a little bit of Star Wars there, Star Wars flavor in there, of course. A lot of fun. If you like Weird Al at all, I would highly recommend seeing him live. I'm not really a big live person. I haven't done a lot of concerts in my life of like pop stars, but I had a ball. It was a lot of fun. He clearly is having fun up there doing that too. He was very nice. I did get to see him afterwards and got his autograph, so that was also very cool. I really enjoyed that. So it's been a busy week, but anyway, my life's been a little crazy this week, but I'm very happy to be doing the OotiniCast today, because this is nice, and also it sort of marks the beginning of sort of like a little bit of going back to usual, so I can actually like do some streaming like I normally do and stuff like that. It's been a very weird week, but it's gotten a lot better, so I'm very happy about that. So I know that wasn't a whole lot of SWTOR stuff, but that's just kind of how my life has been.
That's really good, though. That's some cool stuff, and
yeah.
I'm kind of jealous that I didn't get to see Weird Al. That would have been so
I know,
cool.
yeah. He's doing a big tour, so I mean, if you check it out, I mean, he's all over the place. He's doing a bunch of stuff sort of in the Pacific Northwest the next few days, but I heard him mention that he's going to be like, back in like Wisconsin in a few days, stuff like that. So yeah, he's going to be all over. All right, so the tip of the week. We actually didn't get any tips this week. I should remember to better ask for the tips during the week, but I went ahead and made one, and it's buy those CXP boosts, because the devs have indicated that they're going to turn into renown XP boosts for the expansion, which is going to be the equivalent of command XP for the expansion. And from what I've been seeing on the test server, because what they've done is they've kind of changed the amount of points you need, which I assume is going to be the amount you need in Renown, although they have not implemented the actual gearing and the actual drop boxes. So the boxes that you do get if you're on the test server right now are just the old command boxes, but the amount of points seems to be what you're going to need to have under the Renown system, and it's quite a bit just for one level, because they're not doing the leveling up thing with different tiers of boxes anymore. The whole point is that the Renown boxes are going to basically look at your current gear and then try to give you a slight bump up from there. Because of that, every level is going to be the same, but also every level takes quite a few points. Because of that, double Renown XP is going to be really, really nice. So get those CXP boosts, squirrel them away. They're all legacy bound. It's all good. So do that for sure. All right. And so send in your tips, and if you do, then one of them will win a Tonfon or M83R droid pet code courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. Send those tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com before the next show. And
yeah, please do, so Chill doesn't have to keep getting the M83R droids for himself.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You can't have more than one anyway. It's all account wide, so yeah.
You're just creating characters so that you can claim these droid pets.
You'd think, the way I have 50 characters on Satil Shan alone. So
wow, that's almost 2 alphabets, Chill.
It is. It's almost a deck of playing cards worth. All right, so that'll bring us to the Jedi Mind Trap. What's going on with that, Doc?
All right, so I hope most of our viewers are aware that we had some developers make an appearance on Working Class Nerds last week to talk about operations, and we got a little bit of news about how those are going to work in the Onslaught era.
and a little bit of information about Duxon, which is the new op. And everyone who listens to our show knows that operations are really my lifeline into the game. That they've kept me invested and kept me excited to play and learn more about how to use a sorcerer in different fights, and that's what I'm all about. So this was a very important part of the path to the expansion process for me, because anytime you can hear what's going to happen with your mode of play, well, I show up for that. And so there was I've been having conversations with my raid teams ever since Thursday, and it sounds like we need to help the developers as best we can as the community that plays the game to understand what the priority changes to operations should be. Because what we're seeing is the classic you can't keep everyone happy problem.
Right.
And so this mind trap is certainly not going to help that one bit, but at least it's one question with some votes of people who are devoted enough to the game to play it, but also listen to podcasts about it, which indicates they spend time thinking and caring about it, even when they're not signed in. So my question was, what style of mechanics do you hope will come into reality in 6.0 for operations and other group content? So this could include the flashpoints also, because there's bosses with mechanics depending on what difficulty level you're playing. And that's really what the question is about, is what difficulty are you invested in and what do you hope happens to that difficulty? So that's what I was hoping people would get from this question, even though I'm always limited by Twitter polls, how many characters and how much time do I have to explain the question. So I made 4 choices that I don't want mechanics. Let's do story, but even easier. So for me, that feels like the original tactical Flashpoint, the one where you're on the ship and you do the 3 levels and there's 3 different bosses you could get at the end.
Right.
That you can win that with 4 DPS, you can win that with 3 healers, you can win that with 2 tanks. The Kolto stations are there to get you through the encounters, and it doesn't matter who you're teamed up with. So that's the whole story but easier idea. And then the next option was story mode. Leave it alone. It's good as is. So these are for people who enjoy playing story mode and they don't want to see changes. They don't want to see story mode get even easier. They don't want to see story mode get more difficult either, because it's good the way it is. And then the third option I put was hard mode, but let's make it easier. So this would be for people who are trying to progress into hard mode, but they feel like they can't do it because it's kind of sucky how difficult it feels for them.
Right.
Which could have.
There's quite a bit of a jump between story mode and hard mode for most operations.
And there's a lot of things about hard mode that the gear you're wearing is not as important as doing the fight correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's that's the biggest shift that I've noticed in the way that I have to play in the last 10 or 12 months, is that in story mode, the gear will get you through things. Even if you screw up and stand in something, you will get through the content as long as your whole team is pretty much approaching it close to the right way. And in hard mode, it's very punishing, and having the top gear won't get you through mistakes in a lot of those boss encounters. And the final option was leave hard and nightmare alone. So these are for the people who want to be elite, and they want to fail and push through it and have resilience and overcome adversity and claim victory on the bosses without any help from Matt Pusevich and other developers. They want to plant their flag of dominance in the corpse of dead SWTOR bosses. So before we start talking about the percentages, Chill, I know you like to create tunes and level them through the story and do different things that kind of do the immersion and story and maybe some of the SWTOR achievement kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested, when you look at a question like this, what are your immediate thoughts, and where do you think you would fall in the 4 categories that were created by the question?
Right. Well, I have a bit of a straddle here because even though that's what I'm doing and have done really throughout SWTOR, but I mean, I was also in operations, up until Shadow of Revan, and it was fun really going after the harder bosses and the harder boss fights. And so, I mean, in the end, I kind of went with more of like a philosophical rather than what I'm actually playing right now, and I actually put Leave Heart and Nightmare alone. That was actually what I chose. Just the idea, I like the idea that there are, in fact, difficult things to do in the game that take challenge and coordination and effort. And just on a very basic gut level, that just appeals to me.
Right. So when I look at the results, too, we kind of have contributed to this problem the developers have of you can't keep everybody happy. Because we have 43% of the votes. So we had 67 votes while this poll was open. 43% chose story mode, good as is. So that is also an option that says don't change it, right?
Right.
So then you're looking at the population of people. What difficulty do you enjoy playing? And should we make it more difficult? Should we make it easier? Or should we leave it alone? And so that 43% also is somewhat similar as the Leave Heart and Nightmare alone, not in the sense of what difficulty they enjoy playing, but it's also an answer that says leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at option 2 and option 4, both of them are saying leave it alone. So 43 and 25 is actually 68% of the voters do not want a substantial change to how difficulties work in operations and other group content. Mm-hmm. Whereas option 1 and 3 are about saying, I enjoy doing this and I would like to see the difficulty change.
Right.
So 13% said, let's not change it. Let's make story mode even easier. Right. So, or they didn't say let's not change it. I have to correct that. They said let's not have mechanics. Let's make it like story but easier.
Right.
So that's 13%. And then that is different than the people who said hard mode but easier, because they are saying we want some mechanics. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the second part of the answer, they're saying the content that I play should be easier. So there's really interesting overlaps. It's almost like the question needs some follow-ups. I don't know if I'm going to choose to do that with the next episode, because we're getting closer and closer to Onslaught coming out, and the PTS and what the developers are giving us to talk about every week are really influencing the things I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. But I think that what we've identified is the majority of people want the mode they play to feel the same way it feels right now. And so the challenge is, how do you pull that off when you're making things level 75, when you're making ops that are sort of scaled to level 70, go back to level 50 and 55 and 60 in terms of what they scale to. So it sounds like the ops are going to scale in a way similar to when we're running heroics on the planetary missions, where you go to Tatooine and now you're scaled to level 27. Mm-hmm. You go to Yavin 4 and you're scaled to level 60 or 55, 60. I think it was 60. And so it looks like that's where we're going with the operations. So that sounds like a lot of work. You know, we have to make sure the data tables are working correctly for different gear levels, and gear levels that don't exist yet, that they're on the PTS, but we haven't seen what they look like with all the classes and out in the wild. So I guess I'm just trusting that the Force is with BioWare here. So that's where we're going to stop on the Mind Trap, and chill, let's move along.
All right, that'll bring us to the Holo feed. And we're going to actually start off with the interview on Working Class Nerds with Matt Pusevich and Eric Musco. And there was also a bit of Daniel Steed there just at the beginning. They mostly talked about operations, especially Duxon, but there's like a lot of interesting general discussion of operations and how you balance it and how you set them up and so on. And if you're doing operations in SWTOR, I would highly recommend going and just listening to the whole interview. I'm gonna basically pull things that stuck out to me that I found interesting, but we're not going to go over the entire thing, nor would it make sense to when it already exists at Working Class Nerds. So go check them out. So Musco's been working a lot on the PTS and the PTS stuff that's coming up. Duxon's going to be a big part of that, and he's also prepping for the New York Cantina.
Chill, did you hear who else is prepping for the New York Cantina?
Who's that?
I am.
Hey.
I'm there. So,
That's
if
exciting.
anyone wasn't sure if they want to come and meet Eric and some of the dev crew, but they love OotiniCast, come meet me. I'd love to talk with you about the game and get some faces with the people I've been chatting with for years. That would be so cool for me.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah. It was wonderful. Yeah, every time I've been to the cantinas, I always meet some folks who listen to the podcast or in Utini Nights and Utini Rage. It's always great. Right. So, Spoils of War, which is the new gearing system. No such thing as needing to run one particular thing to get the best gear, but you get a higher likelihood of the best gear by running the most difficult content. So that's just like the basic philosophy they're going with. In other words, even if you're not ever doing operations, you can eventually get the best gear, but it's going to take a lot longer. If you're doing the harder versions of the operations, you'll be getting gear faster than the earlier versions of the operations, but it's still possible to get all the gear in the game playing any way that you wish. Gear leveling is being very hard looked at to make sure that the content feels about the same as before the expansion. And they were going into the philosophy of should you under or over gear the player compared to before the expansion. So they've been tweaking a lot of that on the PTS, trying different things. Sort of an interesting philosophical approach, because it's like, do you want them to feel like it's a challenge at first, or does that blow people out? Should it be easier and then just make the end game content harder? There's a lot of different ways that you could parse that, and yeah, it was interesting hearing them talk about that too. And then when it gets to the actual creation of the encounters, this was an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about. But what they did is, he was saying, and this would be more Matt than Eric, but when they're setting up an encounter for an operation, when they get the mechanics done, they tend to set at a particular level. So he took veteran as like they tend to use like the old and new versions of all these terms kind of interchangeably.
They do.
Especially since they said their internal tools still use all the old terms, so their brains haven't gone over to using the more modern terms. But anyway, if it a lot of times, like for example, when they set the encounter up, it will feel the most natural at like the veteran mode. The hard mode is what we would call it. But then they have to change it to make a story version. They usually take some mechanics away, make some things easier, reduce the damage and so on. But then they have to figure out a way to make it harder without completely changing that particular encounter, but also making it feel like more challenging and different as well. And that was kind of a cool thing to know. It's like, oh, okay, so they basically settle it in at one version, and they have to figure out a different versions. I imagine if it naturally settled out at the nightmare, or at the hardest version or the easiest version, it would take a lot of work to get two jumps going. You know what I mean? To get it harder and then harder again. If it settles naturally in the middle, I just imagine it would be a lot easier to make it a little bit easier and a little bit harder. And not do it like, I agree. Like, okay, that's easy. Now we have to make it harder, and now we have to figure out a way to make it even harder than that.
It's almost like they should start with the hardest and then work on... Mm-hmm. And this is something that I really wish was true, is I wish they started with the hardest content and then decided to scale things back, or to... I don't like removing things completely. I think that that's why it's so hard to jump in from story mode to hard mode, is
Right.
because there are literally things in the fight you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if that was there and you could eat it and it taught you on story mode, like this hurts you 20% of your health bar, but it's a wipe on hard mode.
Right.
Then at least you know where it's coming from and you
What
know
it
that it
looks
hurts
like,
more.
yeah, what it
Right.
sounds like, what it looks like, what the timing is, when it happens
Yeah.
in the fight, all that
And you
stuff.
you could even know that I need to put up my static bubble when that thing's coming my way.
Right.
You know, that you already have, yeah, but it's story mode. So for players who don't know to put up that static barrier and they just eat it in their face and it explodes, then the healers can still recover. And but that's why it's such a nightmare to progress through the different difficulties, is because things are just deleted instead of scaled down or nerfed. And that's a big change to what it's like to learn fights.
That's right. And one of the things that they're looking at doing, is taking the operations and putting them at their old stat scaling level. So, in other words, you might be running an scaled down to 50 if it's like EV or KP, which is what they were originally, and then keeping them at that level. And there's been a lot of talk in our chat about like concern about this, and I can understand that because that's obviously different from how they're doing it now. I can see some advantages, especially from a developer's point of view, though, because if they can get it balanced at a particular level, then every time there's a new gearing, or especially when there's a new expansion and 5 new levels, they don't have to go back in and figure out every last add every last encounter, every last boss mechanic, and scaling them all the damage and so on correctly. They can simply because the levels will go up but your character will stay at the same level. They'll get scaled back down, and it just and it keeps things easier for them going forward, which I can understand because they've got obviously limited amount of resources, limited amount of time that they can spend on everything, and if that lets them work on new content instead of having to rebalance old content more often, generally I'm happy with that if they can make this work. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting idea, certainly, because we've seen a lot of other there's tons of leveling down in the game now. We've gotten used to that as a mechanic, and so it'll be interesting to see it in an actual operation. So yeah, I'm I'm a little concerned about it too, because it's definitely it definitely could go a little haywire, but I think generally it sounds like an okay idea to me. That's just how I thought about it.
It's all in the execution, right? The intent is definitely good for the game.
Mm-hmm.
But we might have some rocky weeks too that we have to just be ready to deal with and be humane towards the developers, because I'm sure they wake up every morning with the intention to put a good game out there, to put a good 6.0 out there, to give us a state of progression in the game, whether it's just collecting gear, whether it's clearing bosses, whether it's leveling alts or leveling up the tunes we already have. They're going to do it with the intent to make it an enjoyable game. And there's going to be hiccups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and they're going to go in and try to fix the hiccups. So it's all about being mindful and having a good connection to our present in the here and now, kind of channeling some Qui-Gon Jinn or Irvin Yalom or whichever part of my life you want to subscribe to, the Star Wars or the psychology. Like, we got to use our skills to be cool and just be ready to enjoy the game.
Yep. Let's see. So they were talking about when they did the live stream, there was some fly-throughs of the new operation. So they got to talking about Duxon at this point. When you see the Mohawk dinosaur, that would be actually the first boss. Other pictures that they had were potential bosses in development, but some of them may never become bosses. But it's always interesting to see that stuff, even the stuff that never comes to fruition. There's so much beautiful art that and they have so many great artists on the team that it's always cool to see what they're thinking about, even if it doesn't end up becoming something that you actually see in the game.
I'm personally excited to find out more about Cherry Kefis.
Yes, there's a lot of talk about. I didn't know what to write in the notes about that, so I didn't actually include it. But yes, I remember that.
Well, I'm glad I could get Cherry Kefis into our episode. Any time you codename something Kefis for real,
right?
There is a level of lore in that now at this point where someone just needs to write a Legends book that chronicles the growth of the soul of Kefis.
Yeah, there's less and less of Kefis every time we see him. He's got more and more like
my gosh,
artificial parts.
Get a Vader Kefis.
A Vader Kefis, yeah. That would be awesome. or there's just like this massive, it almost looks like a droid, but it turns out it's Kefis inside it, or at least his brain or something. Just his brain inside a big droid.
I mean, while we're really at it with the zeitgeist of Star Wars right now, we need a Barbie Kefis. That's what we really need. Because I don't know if you saw all the high-end Barbies that are coming out, but I'm seeing on my Twitter feed the Vader Barbie everywhere the last 24 hours.
Nice. Let's see. Yeah, and the Zerka thing, the operation, they decided to put it here. There's it's known for having a bunch of creatures there anyway, really savage, beasts and so on. There's a weird atmospheric connection bridging two bodies, which is kind of cool. And I think I've read about that in one of the Star Wars novels. Maybe it was the same planet or maybe not, but it was always a kind of a cool idea. But anyway, with all the savage beasts there, you can kind of imagine why Zerka might be there, and then why the characters, our players, might have to intercede. So, let's see. As far as specific gear from specific bosses, they said that at launch of Onslaught, they're not planning on doing that, but they will their intention is to do that over time. Spoils of War is the beginning of the gear changes rather than the end of the gear changes. But especially, this was Eric talking at this point, and he was saying that the special gear that would be gotten off of these bosses would still be possible to be gotten by other means, which is, this is my own take. I'm very cool with that, because there were certain times in the game when we just couldn't get that lost boss down, which meant whatever gear that was on that boss, whether it was a weapon or whatever, you just didn't get, and there was no other way to get it in the game. So it's kind of cool that, there's going to be a specific way that's the normal way to get it, but you can potentially get it, some other way. I appreciate that, but especially the way I'm playing the game right now, which is a little, which isn't as operation heavy, and it's more, more casual and leveling and alting and all that good stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I think for me, the gear that drops off the bosses hasn't seemed to matter during my progression in the 5.0 era, because of the command crates. So bosses not dropping gear at the beginning I remember when that's how it worked in 5.0, and that was a weird change, because you were so used to the gear dropping in the 4.0 era. So then the switch over just to the command crates was a weird adjustment, but I don't anticipate that feeling weird, because the gear that's been dropping from bosses, you just vendor it, really. I've been turning them in at the end of the night, whichever ones that I get, and then selling them in 2 days just to get the 50,000 credits. I've been doing that for months.
Wow.
So as long as the actual method of progressing your gear is working, and then they're telling us that the bosses will drop gear, we just have to keep working on the gear before we're ready to implement that. So it's not a permanent change, it's just growing pains. So I'm on board with that. I will say it's less than ideal what's going to happen, but it's not the end of the world, and I'm not upset about it.
Right. Let's see. We can skip a little bit of this, and I will just end with this one because we're going to get to it pretty soon. Musco didn't name which one of it that it was, but he said that he felt that one of the bounty hunter tacticals was broken, which in gamer speak means very, very strong. So I'll be interested to see if we can figure out which one that is when we talk about that here in just a minute. Before we get to that, there are a few August events that are still going on. Double XP and CXP is active. It's been active. It will still be active until August 20th, so it's less than a week now.
5 days.
Yep. Ends at August 20th, 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 6 p.m. GMT. And these times are also the same for all these other events, too. Relics of the Gree is currently active. It's been active a couple days now, and it will be active until August 20th at the same times, 11 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. GMT. And Rakghoul Resurgence will be coming. It'll be on Alderaan this time, and that's going to start August 27th, and it's going to run until September 3rd. Again, 11 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. GMT for start and end times. So yeah, so take it, especially the double XP and CXP. I hope you're taking advantage of that because it's really, really nice. It's making, leveling the CXP on my last class that I need, and obviously, there's a reason it's the last class. It's because I don't.
Which one is it, Chill?
This one happens to be Marauder. I like some of the things about the Marauders. I love a lot of the actual abilities. For instance, I think a lot of them look cool and they feel strong. Like I love how the throw 30 meters out goes out and comes back to you, and it does damage in a line that you can actually aim. By targeting different people and then putting your body in a different spot. There's certain things I love about the class, but okay. I've never been a fan of the classes where you have to build up your own energy to use it. It's just not a mechanic that I enjoy very much. Okay. I'd rather have an actual energy bar that gets used up and it regens. It's just how I enjoy playing. So that's how it is.
I cleared that part of the achievement using a Juggernaut. So I'm not. I know everyone knows how I feel about Marauders at this point. I try to joke when I'm live, but there's probably that little inkling of truth inside every joke. And we actually started a hashtag in our raid Discord. When someone doesn't do things right, they put hashtag Mara at the end of it. I mean, I'm not going to call out anyone's names, but I'm sure everyone can figure out who started that. It wasn't me, actually, but I just prefer Juggernaut. I like being able to have threat and taunt. I like the ability to use defensives. It's just, but you know what? Chill. I think you're inspiring me. The next tune that I play that's not related to raids, I will catch my Marauder up to speed.
Nice.
That could be fun.
There are some very cool things about them for sure. It's just not my favorite way to play the game. All right, so Musco put out the mercenary abilities, tactical items, and set bonuses. And also the power tech as well, but we're going to start with the, let's see, this is the mercenary. Okay. So there are mercenaries and power techs, but we're starting with mercenaries. The new ability, in this case, it's not exactly a new ability, but in lieu of a new ability, mercenaries will have 2 charges of rocket out, which...
That's really helpful.
Technically, yeah, it could be very, very nice. Some operation fights, it's actually very useful to get out of the poop. Also, though, I can imagine that in PvP, this is going to be very, very good. So, yeah. Set bonuses. And so there's some with 4s and the 6s and so on. Critical Charge. This is a 4-set bonus. Gaining a stack of Supercharge increases your critical chance by 10% for 10 seconds. The effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So you have to gain that Supercharge stack. Basically, you can keep it up all the time, though, as long as you make sure you gain your stacks. And then at 6, doing damage or healing an ally has a 5% chance to build a Supercharge and can only happen once per 3 seconds. So there we go.
That gets you through the last set of stacks quickly, so that's really useful.
That does sound nice, actually, yeah. Power Step, a 4-set bonus. Activating Power Shot, Tracer Missile, or Rapid Scan increases the critical chance of your next Power Shot, Tracer Missile, or Rapid Scan by 3%. Stacks up to 5 times. So basically more crit for one of your, one of your more spam abilities. The 6-set Power Shot, Tracer Missile, and Rapid Scan grant a stack of Power Step, stacking up to 5 times, and at 5 times your next Power Shot, Tracer Missile, or Rapid Scan is more effective and costs no heat. That's always interesting when you remove the heat, the energy cost, essentially.
And these bonuses are really actually good because they're going to happen just by playing your rotation correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So it fits into what you're already doing, and it just makes you perform better.
Yeah, that is always a consideration. Like, if you're adding a tactical, but it's making you use an ability you don't normally use, it's like, where are you going to fit it into your rotation?
Exactly.
Can you fit it in? Are there going to be times where you don't fit it in? If so, is the tactical still worth it? So that sort of thing. Right. Surging Power, 4-set bonus. Power Surge grants precision targeting, increases armor pen by 10% for 6 seconds. It can only happen once a minute. And at the 6-set piece, Power Surge gains an additional charge. So, I don't know. That might be good, but yeah. It's one of those, it's like, whenever it's based on a longer cooldown ability, it's like, how much is it helping it? And, how much are you really getting out of it? And is it okay that the fact that, it only comes less often because it's based on a longer cooldown mechanic, as opposed to the other one, the last one, where it was based on, your spam ability that you're going to use like almost half of your globals. Something
right.
like that,
Well, again, it's increasing your armor penetration. So
yeah.
when you're fighting things where that's a factor in your damage output, that could be good. It's limited to once a minute, but lots of fights are a handful of minutes. So that could give you periods of time, kind of like having a relic, that the relic takes what you're doing and it behind the scenes, it tinkers with the stats to make sure that you're performing right. So I actually like what I'm reading on that one too.
Cool. Okay. And then the last of the set bonuses is Technical Medic, and the 4-set onboard AED becomes instant cast.
Mm-hmm.
Always interesting to have things become instant cast.
Well, that's
cast on
the
move.
Healer change for 6.0. I think we're reading that for each class that does healing.
Mm-hmm. Right, and at the 6-set bonus level, Chaff Flare heals all allies around you, and that's your threat reduction, isn't it? Yeah. So that's cool, because now it not only is he reducing you as a healer from your threat, but you're also gaining an extra heal.
And it doesn't have that pesky knockback for people who do this with the, I'm talking sorc stuff here.
Yeah.
But I imagine Chaff Flare is going to function very similar to Overload, except minus the whole screwing up everyone's orbital strikes.
Right. And AoE and everything else.
Yeah, like you screw up everything just by throwing out those 5 healer points. So this is a nice healer, bounty hunter heal change here.
Yeah,
I like both halves, part A and part B.
Yeah, that sounds really good to me too. Right, and of course there's the tactical items. It's the new slot item coming in Onslaught, and you will only be able to wear one tactical item at a time. You can swap them out though freely. They don't bind to you, or they don't like lock into the slot or anything like weird like that. They just, it takes up a slot of your inventory. Mercenary ones. So these are just the generic ones for mercenaries. Cool your jets. Rocket out vents 20 heat and immobilizes enemies around you for 1 second. That sounds pretty good for PvP, and especially since you're going to get 2 stacks of rocket out now, because that's the change in Onslaught. So that,
yeah,
PvP wise, that could be good. Jettison, jet boost, increases your movement speed by 50% for 3 seconds. For each enemy you hit with jet boost, the cooldown of hydraulic overrides is reduced by 3 seconds. Interesting. Okay, so jet boost is the one that's an AoE knockback around you. So after you use it, you'll be faster for 3 seconds, and also for every enemy you hit. Your hydraulic overrides, which is that one that allows you to be immune to slows and pulls and so on. That gets reduced by 3 seconds for every enemy you hit. That's pretty cool, actually, because hydraulic overrides is not a terribly long cooldown anyway. I believe you can get it down to 30 seconds or something if you take the right utility. So that's another 10% off, for every person you hit with that. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, makes your abilities that you use very situationally become more available, and in tough spots, that's very important.
Yeah, when I play Mercenaries, Power Text too, but especially Mercenaries, I think I do like to take the utilities that improve your hydraulic overrides. So the fact that this also interacts with hydraulic overrides and reduces its cooldown sounds pretty tempting, actually. I kind of like that idea a lot. I think that's going to be a really good idea. Missile back. Missile blast knocks its target back and refunds some heat. Interesting. I don't know. I guess I'd have to think about that one. But anytime you get extra CC,
what
that's
move this is, honestly. Probably because I don't play very much except to power level CXP on this class.
I think it's the one that's like, it does a little bit of AoE damage, but it's mostly single. It's kind of single target with a little bit of AoE damage. And I don't know. I think maybe not. I'll have to check that one out. That could be potentially very good. I mean, anytime you're adding CC, then in this case a knockback, that's potentially very powerful. So that we'll have to watch on that one. Power cycle. When you use an ability with power surge, that ability is not put on cooldown. Oh, okay. So
that's
wow,
one that keeps you flowing better.
Yeah, extra abilities, man. That's really potentially powerful. All right, and then
I think we can both agree Mercenaries really needed to become more powerful, so I'm glad that they're doing such a good job.
That's right. They've been out of the meta for so long.
With their list, yeah.
Oh, wait.
People might be creating Mercenaries now.
Yeah. That's right. All right, Arsenal. Hot shot. Fusion missile spreads the heat signature. Heat seeker missiles fire additional missiles to nearby targets affected by heat signature.
That sounds so cool to me.
It does, yeah. Anything that spreads your effects is always interesting, and heat signature is important just because it makes people vulnerable to like the rail shot and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Priming bolts. Dealing damage with blazing bolts increases the damage of your next priming shot, stacking up to 8 times to 100%. Oh yeah, that's the one that you can open with on the move. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, this naturally would fit what I do when I play Arsenal, which is, I don't remember what the trooper version of that, but that's what I just finished leveling, and those moves just go back and forth. In the normal rotation, so having blazing bolts make the next priming bolt better. That's another one that's going to automatically start stacking for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be really cool. Burning shot. Priming shot causes this target to burn. Blazing bolts, heat seeker missiles, and tracer missile all tick its damage. Wow. So it's not only a dot, but it's one that your other abilities force an extra tick on.
Make your own dot.
Yeah.
Actually, that's so cool, Chill, because it teaches people to do a rotation.
Right. It's like, okay, do your priming shot, and then now, work on your blazing bolts, heat seeker missiles, and tracer missile. Try to make sure you get as many of those abilities on them as possible. That's actually potentially very, very powerful, especially that seems more like a... that's not so much the PvP because it's not, CC oriented or anything. That's just straight damage. That could be really good in operations potentially.
Yeah.
All right. Innovative ordnance, sweeping carnage, sweeping blasters, and death from above refresh and tick your incendiary missile burn and serrated shot bleed. Wow, this effect can only occur once every 2.5 seconds. Okay, so yeah, they had to gate it to every 2.5 seconds. I can see why, because that sounds really powerful anyway. Yeah, because if you get your burns going, then you can just force them to tick extra from sweeping blasters, which is, pretty commonly used. And then Death from Above is a pretty short cooldown. Pretty nice. Magnetic Trigger. Explosive Dart now remains dormant on the target for 12 seconds. Mag Shot detonates it, dealing double its standard damage to the primary target. Interesting. So basically you're taking it, and from it, instead of like ticking a bunch, several times, it's just going to tick once, but for a bunch of damage. Yeah, I don't know.
That's just another way of, you're reinforcing the idea that these moves link together. So I think that that's cool. Other classes have certain specs that do this too, where if you let it time out, it will do something.
Right.
But the real goal is to link it into your other moves.
Yeah. It sounds interesting. Although, from what I remember, doesn't the don't the detonations like give you like energy back and stuff like that? They have other effects. I don't know. It sounds interesting, but I have to see it in action to actually decide like if it's worth it.
Well, with that question, I'm outside of my scope, chill. But
yeah. Energizer. The duration of Supercharge gas and Supercharge burn are doubled. That's always nice. All right. Supercharge gas.
Well, that just lets the positive effects of those two things linger longer.
Yeah.
As you're tearing things apart with your guns. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, that potentially could be very good as well. Bodyguard. So
this is the healing spec, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're on to healing. Supercharged Burst. Kolto Missile grants a stack of supercharged gas for each target it hits. Wow, for each target it hits, not just at all. Supercharged gas heals all nearby allies for the same amount as Kolto Missile's initial heal when activated. Kolto Missile's cooldown is extended by 4 seconds. So they actually had to increase the cooldown because of how strong it makes this. Wow, that's pretty nice though.
Well, by extending it, you're also encouraging people to figure out what to do with that extra 4 seconds.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, exactly.
It's going to change the flow of the moves.
Exactly, because there are some rotations that are actually kind of like, they're almost like too busy. Like the cooldowns are a little short, and you end up just like kind of leaving things out because, this important one's back, so I can't really afford to put this one out. So yeah, that potentially could be really good. Alacrity Scan. Rapid Scan can be cast while moving and heals for an additional 10%. I'm always a fan of things that lets you cast things on the move. I'm not sure.
The bosses are designed that way too. At this point.
Right. So, and then finally, Kolto Time. Kolto Shot applies a lingering heal over time effect to its target. Well, obviously the numbers are gonna,
I just need someone to
design matter in that one for sure.
That says Kolto Time. Like just, that feels like it's an explanation or exclamation that I need players to yell out loud in the chat.
Kolto Time.
Kolto Time.
All right. And of course, if you're a commando player, you can expect to see these set bonuses mirrored for you as well. They're in process, of course. And yeah, on the test server, they are only doing Imperial. All right. Eric says, let us know your thoughts. Here are the types of feedbacks we're looking for. XX seems too strong or too weak. XXS bonus combined with XX tactical seems too strong or too weak. I wish there was a set bonus or tactical that had a specific effect or modified a specific ability not listed, and be specific as possible. So pretty cool. There's definitely some interesting ones in there. I mean, again,
I'm excited to see what happens to Mercenary. It's probably the third class I level every expansion through the content. So I do Sorcerer, then Juggernaut, and then Mercenary.
Cool.
And then it's just whatever. So
fair
I'll
enough.
definitely think this out. And it looks like they did a good job thinking about how to make it cool and keep it relevant.
Right. Okay. Let's just go ahead and go on to the power tech. He also put out the power tech information. In this case, there is an actual fully new ability. You might remember Mercenary got an extra stack of Rocket Out, but this time, and that was the only class that hasn't gotten an actual new ability from what I remember. But this one, Power Tech does get a new ability called Power Yield. It increases your armor by 40%, damage done by 2% for 10 seconds, but getting attacked during this time adds an additional stack, up to 5 times for 200% armor and 10% damage done. Pretty cool. I mean, it is a damage cooldown to some degree, but it's, potentially it's a very powerful tanking cooldown. It doesn't mention how long the cooldown is going to be, but it's clearly going to be one of those that's going to be at least a couple minutes long, for sure. Because that seems really powerful.
Yeah, I just told the chat chill that I don't even have a max level power tech, so this one's all on you, buddy.
All right, I'll do my best.
I have no idea what you're trying to tell me here.
That's all cool. Set bonuses. Let's see. Explosive Yield, the 4-set bonus. Power Yield's duration is extended by 5 seconds. That's pretty nice. Or the 6-set bonus. Each time you take damage while under Power Yield, the cooldown of Explosive Fuel is reduced by 3 seconds. So basically just improving some of your cooldowns. That's pretty cool.
Wait, that's where Rocket Punch went? See, I just thought they deleted it from the game because I know my Mercenary can't do it. So it's a power tech thing.
Oh yeah. You can still punch as a power tech.
Well, that's fun.
Yep. There's a 4-set bonus called Auto Cannon. Searing Wave makes all targets vulnerable to shoulder cannon for 5 seconds. Okay. I'm not sure what that means because shoulder cannon you can fire at any target. It doesn't have to be someone who's vulnerable to anything. Maybe it just means more damage taken or something, but it doesn't say what percent. 6-set bonus for auto cannon. Each shoulder cannon rocket has a 25% chance to trigger an additional rocket. Kind of cool. The vulnerability must be an extra percent damage, but it doesn't mention what it is. Double Charge, 4-set bonus. Jet Charge's range is increased by 5 meters, so you can charge in from longer away. And then 6 Jet Charge gets 2 charges. That is going to be really good for like PvP basically. Because I mean, anything that lets you get your jump in from further away is good, and then 2 charges is really, really good.
I feel like you have to have a really good mental calculator to play power tech correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is very much about managing numbers of things.
Yeah. I know when I've played when I've done power tech and taken them into war zones, for instance, a lot of times you're in your mind. It's like, okay, if I jump in, are they immediately going to just push me away and get away? But if you have 2 charges of jet charge, that means if they knock you away again, unless they have some sort of lockdown on you, you'll be able to charge again right away, which is pretty cool. Right. I mean, I can't imagine anyone taking that into operations. That really does feel like a PvP thing. I mean, technically you could use it in an operation, but I can't imagine why you would.
Well, does the charge is your ability to jump in, right?
Yep.
Is there an ability that causes that to be an interrupt? Like in the other classes that jump in?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't remember for sure. Maybe there is a utility
really
that does it.
That would be valuable in certain fights because you need an excess of interrupts.
Right.
So
might be tricky to pull off though, because there's a minimum range on the jet charge. You'd have to back off, and if the focus is on you as a tank, maybe this isn't a tank though. Maybe this is a DPS. You can put it on a DPS power tech. So yeah, you could do that.
Oh well, I'm trying chill.
Yeah. And carbon conversion carbonizes cooldown at the 4-set piece. It's at it says carbonizes cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds, which is a lot. Usually when you see things like this, it's more like 5. So 10's pretty good. And the 6-set piece is carbonized vents 5 heat for each enemy it hits. That's pretty cool. It's a little AoE stun around you. It's kind of a short duration stun, but it's still it's situationally very useful in PvP. I mean, and again, it's like I can't see using this in operations too much.
But I can. If it vents 5 heat for
except for the
every
vent.
enemy,
Yeah.
and it's a fight where there's waves of ads, then you could get 30 heat back
Right.
in certain situations. So
Potentially, yeah, that could be good.
so that's valuable for heat management. I don't know how big of a deal that is because I don't play power tech, but I know some classes that have that resource management where it's really important to always pay attention to that. This could be nice.
Right. Every spec's a little different with the power tech from what I remember. It's like some of them are easier heat-wise and some of them are harder. But in every case, because it's the type where you don't gain, if you let it get low, you're not gaining as much back. So, you have to keep it in the top half for the most part. Heat management is really important. So, potentially pretty cool. Tactical items. This is the new slot. Item slot coming. You can only have one at a time. The general power tech ones. Ranged rocket punch. Rocket punch now has a range of 10 meters. So I guess
that's a long arm.
Yeah, a little fist going out on a string and it comes back. It gets rewound back in.
Any sense.
I love the idea though.
BioWare, I don't mind getting cool abilities, but they have to make sense. I don't understand what that is. How did this get put into your notes, Musco? Okay, please fix that. They need a different animation, like maybe a fireball or something that goes outward when you use this, because I'm not buying it.
Second contract. Grapple gets 2 charges, so you get to pull 2 different people, and activating it finishes the cooldown of Rocket Punch and Flaming Fist. Well, that's actually 2 different versions of the same ability. Flaming Fist is the version of Rocket Punch from one of the specs.
Like Pyrotech.
I can't. Yeah, I think so.
Well, I would name Flaming Fist for my Pyrotech.
Yeah.
that feels correct. Unlike ranged Rocket Punch.
Right. Grapple's always fun anyway, so I could see having a lot of fun with 2 grapples. Sonic Missile heals all allies around its target. Interesting because, of course, power techs don't have a healing spec, so you're giving a heal to a non-healing character. Sonic Missile is the AoE taunt, I believe. So there's a different one where it gives a little shield to all your allies around the target. So this would, if you took that utility and this tactical, you would potentially do a shield and a heal to all allies around the target. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great for strategy and for timing your cooldowns to keep people up during the burn phases or the really dangerous parts of the fight.
Yep. And let's see. And the final generic power tech one is Neural Trigger. Dealing damage to an enemy affected by your neural dart stuns them for 3 seconds and ends the taunt. Interesting. Okay. So you taunt them with your neural dart, and then if you deal damage to them, it stuns them for 3 seconds, although it ends the taunt effect. That sounds really good for PvP, actually. It really does. Because it gives you an extra stun, and the taunt is useful in PvP. They made it useful because if they're not attacking you when you've taunted them, if they're attacking someone else, they're doing less damage to your allies. So it's not like taunts have no use, but giving an actual 3-second stun is pretty good. And Neural Dart is like a 15-second cooldown, something like that.
Sounds right.
Maybe that's the one that Musco was talking about when he was saying one of the tacticals felt really strong.
But didn't he say that for Mercenary?
I thought he just said Bounty Hunter. I can't remember.
Oh, see, in my mind, I didn't realize that
that there are.
I just revealed a lot about my inner world. Sorry, Power Text.
Yeah.
I'm gonna track it down. You can keep going. I just want to know.
That's interesting. Yeah. Slayer SWTOR in chat is saying, yeah, taunt is 18 seconds without set bonus, 15 with the set bonus. That sounds right, actually. Although the set bonuses will be changing, so it might be 18 seconds more commonly. Right. Interesting. Advanced prototype. Energized blade. Retractable blades bleed effect. Boy, that for some reason that was hard to say. Retractable blades bleed effect. Deals more damage the more energy load stacks you have. Okay. Is that what they're calling the new one from the new ability, or I'm not sure what that's referring to actually. Flame detonation, dealing damage with searing wave or flame sweep to a target affected by a pre-exploded thermal detonator causes it to explode. Oh, a pre-exploded, in other words, an unexploded thermal detonator causes it to explode, creating a large explosion and dealing damage to all nearby enemies. That one sounds kind of cool.
Layered abilities.
Yeah.
I like that. It makes you think, plan ahead, have a strategy.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, in this case, if you needed more AoE in your spec. And then power load. Power yield instantly builds 4 energy loads. Okay, so power yield, the new ability, is the one that gives the energy loads. Okay. Getting critically hit while under power yield builds an energy load. So power loads, if you really like those energy loads, you can get them a lot more often with that tactical. For advanced prototype. Pyrotech, which is usually the one I've been playing with, so hopefully I can really zoom in on these. Explosive weaponry. During explosive fuel, flaming fist, flame burst, and immolate... Okay, during explosive... Okay, there's a comma missing. Okay, during explosive fuel, flaming fist, flame burst, and immolate do damage to all nearby targets, and searing wave hits twice. Wow. So all of a sudden you have tons more AoE. And I don't remember Pyrotech having much trouble with AoE.
I don't think so. It sounds like...
Okay.
That's
I could see that. That went out on the stream. I don't know if you care, but...
Oh, it's fine. I have a conference call coming up in 30 minutes, so...
Right. We're pretty close to the end, though. We have
now
this
everybody
and
knows.
a little bit of other news, and it's all good. Flame dissipation. When superheated flamethrower reaches 2 stacks, it applies flame dissipation to you, lowering the cost of searing wave by 3 heat, stacks up to 5 times, and is consumed by searing wave at 5 stacks. When consumed, flame dissipation increases your periodic fire damage by 10% for 10 seconds. So a lot of heat management. And I do remember Pyrotech having a little bit of issues with heat management, which is, not ironic at all.
I remember that too, but I assume that's just because I was playing poorly.
No, I think it actually is a little bit tricky on the heating thing. So that actually might help quite a bit. Superheated fuel, explosive fuel causes all flame attacks. Critical chance by 100%. Holy cow.
Well,
Okay.
if you're named Pyrotech and all of your flame attacks have a 100% critical chance, I would like that a lot.
Yeah, wow. Well, explosive fuel isn't up all the time, but still, during that period of time, that's a lot of critting. That's pretty cool.
So for the Sorcerer and Lightning spec, why do I not have a set bonus where 100% of my lightning attacks critical?
Right. While you're, what's that one? I can't remember what you have a sort of a similar damaging utility as well. Or,
that would
cooldown.
break the game. I'm just joking.
You just want it up all the time.
I just wanted to say let's get some 100% auto crit lightning moves.
Yeah, so
besides Affliction and Thundering Blast.
Right. So a couple of those sound really good. For Pyrotech, I like the flame dissipation one, so you have a lot more heat management, and then the superheated fuel one, the extra critting during explosive fuel sounds really, really nice, actually. And then finally, shield tech. So we're off to the tank.
The tank spec, right?
Yep. Oil fire, oil slick, which is that puts an oil slick down around you, and it basically makes they get reduced accuracy and a couple of other minor effects. Makes targets susceptible to firestorm. Each affected enemy you hit increases your damage reduction by 1.5% and reduces the cooldown of oil slick by 5 seconds. That's nice, because Oil Slick is decent. It's okay, but it's not the strongest cooldown that there is out there, so this makes it a lot better.
If you use it in the right spot, you get rewarded too.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
you'll get it back faster, and it will reduce more damage around you.
Yep. Thermal screen, heat screen now stacks up to 6 times. I think it. And power yield immediately builds 6 stacks. Yeah, and I think it's normally 5, right? I think that's right. Or maybe it's 3. I can't remember. It's been a while since I played tank on that spec. But in any case, improves your heat screen, which is like this thing that stacks up and gives you more and more defensiveness as you stack it up. So that's pretty cool. Hot swap, translocating a guarded target, gives them 40% damage reduction and neutralizes you. I don't know what that means. You swap back after 6 seconds.
So this is something you use when that friend of yours is clearly about to die.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even preemptively use it. But neutralizing you,
I don't know what that
since this is
means.
a tank spec, I feel like it drops your threat or something.
Oh, okay. That could be, yeah.
I don't know if that's what they mean, but it sounds like something that you're already doing is going to disappear because you chose to do this.
Mm. The swap back is actually kind of interesting too, because normally when you use your translocation, you're just in the thick of things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that because you're a tank. But in this case, you're now going to swap back after 6 seconds, so it's like it becomes much more situational, but potentially very interesting, depending on the fight that you're in, or maybe even in PvP. I'm not sure. That could be kind of cool. I have no idea exactly how that's going to work, but I don't know. I kind of like where they're going with it, even though I'm not sure of all the details. Very cool. And then they say the same thing about how Vanguards will get the same things swapped over that's still in process, and blah blah blah. They do want the same sort of feedback, and we'll go from there. So. A recent note about the PTS, it was brought down, I think it was this morning. They're doing a patch to fix some group finder issues, and I saw in chat that apparently they're still having a few issues, but it should be back up pretty much any time. Loot drops on the public test server are not implemented yet. That's going to be the main focus of Phase 2 and beyond. They are on Phase 1.5 right now. So, so the loot drop thing has not changed yet. That's going to be very interesting to see when that happens. And final news, this happened only a couple of hours ago. Ben Irving, who recently was the lead producer on Anthem, but also long worked on SWTOR and was one of our favorite Aussie devs, has decided to take a job at another gaming company. So, of course, we wish him all the best. So, goodbye to Ben Irving. And I did look up his LinkedIn, and here are the things he did on SWTOR. So starting in 2011, so he was there, before the launch. He was the release manager for SWTOR at launch, so very important job already. He was also the release manager in 2012 when they went free to play. 2013, Rise of the Hutt Cartel, he was the release manager of that as well. In 2013, he became the development manager for Galactic Starfighter. So he was heavily involved with that. He was the lead development director in 2014 of Galactic Strongholds. So if you enjoy Strongholds, he was big on that. He was also lead development director on the expansion Shadow of Revan. And then in 2015, Knights of the Fallen Empire, and in 2016, Knights of the Eternal Throne. And I believe it was shortly after that when he started working on Anthem. So he's been with SWTOR a long time. It's done a lot of really good work, and we're going to miss him. So we wish him the best. And is there anything else you want to say, Doc?
No, just congrats, Ben. Good work. Thanks for giving us what you've given us so far. We're up to this point.
All right.
Back then.
All right, then that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Satil Shan server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /C join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to utinicast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @UtiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, utinicast.com, which includes how to subscribe using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live bi-weekly, normally on Tuesdays at noon Pacific. Go to utinicast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby, and thank you to the chat room.
Thanks, everyone.
And we'll see you next show. All right, thanks for coming, everyone. Let's see, we are going to... the Skype thing worked okay, but I do think if we could get something back to a little closer to how we have the normal Hangouts, we will work on that and see if we can't get that going in the next episode or maybe two. Because I know Doc was feeling uncomfortable having basically 95% of the screen time, or screen space the whole time. And I feel that way too. I understand how that could be very
the tiny little chill box is really what's weird. It's like we're Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's right.
Wait. Is I'm playing around with my webcam. Oh, other hand.
Over here, yeah, go.
So I have to...
A little lower. There we go.
I can't rotate my brain this way. Oh, I'm holding chill.
That's right. I crush your head if you remember the kids in the hall.
If I could just hold my hand like this the whole show.
That's funny.
So everyone who's still on the stream is like, wow.
All right, folks. So we're gonna stop the stream right there, and you guys have a good one. I'm gonna do my editing, and then I'll stream later this afternoon/evening. Have a good one.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Stop.